In today's video, we take on this week's latest daily race and we go for overtake of the week. But do we manage to pull it off? Let's find out in the latest daily race C at Deep Forest in Group 3. Now, as you can see, there's quite a few names that you might recognise in this lobby. We're starting from P13, going from the back of the grid in the Peugeot RCZ, which seems to be the go-to car for this week's daily race C. Now, custom slipstream is being used this week. It's a strange decision. Last week they didn't use it when we were in Group 2, and then at a track where you don't really need it in Group 3 because of the strength of the slip on the straight, they put it on. Typical PD in my view. I'm not sure who's running things in terms of daily races at Gran Turismo, but whoever it is, they're not getting it 100% right. But we're going to see what we can do here, going from the back of the grid and seeing if we can work our way through the traffic. So straight away we have an opportunity. Hogstone goes a bit slow through the corner. We've got the inside line, and then as we're going through on that inside line, I think he didn't realise we were there. We were all the way up against the white line. I think it was fair, and we put ourselves up into P12 there. Now, as we come through to this downhill section, a lot of cars very, very close together there, and we're going to go to the right-hand side here and try and go around the outside of this Peugeot and tuck in behind the McLaren. You can see we actually make that work quite nicely and pick up the slipstream to the McLaren now on this straight. So we're going to pull out of the slipstream and see if we can get the slipstream to the next group of cars. And we have Damien coming through in the Suzuki, which is another option for this race. The Suzuki in the slipstream is a very, very quick car. You can see it behind us, gaining massively there in the slipstream. Now, without the slipstream, it's not the quickest in terms of straight lines, but with a slipstream, it has definitely got a lot of pace. It's got a lot of acceleration. You can see here, we put ourselves up to P10, but Damien now is going to show you just how strong this slipstream is on this combination with the custom slipstream. So again, you can see the slipstream, he's gaining, and he is just going to breeze past us. In my view, that is a little bit too much. It's a little bit too powerful. I think that Gran Turismo should have ran real slipstream for this week's daily C. I think it would have made a little bit more sense. Also, probably would have made a bit more variety with the cars, because the Peugeot wouldn't have been as easy to overtake other cars with. It might have made some different choices stick out a little bit more than the Peugeot. Now, we're going to skip ahead here to the end of lap 2. We've got a yellow flag there. I'm not sure what's happened there, but we're now into P10, tucking in behind Damien and picking up that slipstream. Now, again, keep an eye on the speed on this straight. At the end of the straight without a slipstream in time trial, you eventually get to about 161. Look how early we're hitting that speed, 161 already. And now we're going up to 166, 167, 168, and we're not even in the strongest part of the slipstream there. It does, I think, to be honest, in my view, I think they've gone way too far with this custom slipstream. I think what they should do is they should take the lack of dirty air out of custom slipstream and put it into the real slipstream. So keep the power of slipstream from real, just put the lack of dirty air into that slipstream, and I think you've got your problem solved. You don't need to be doing this custom slip that they keep incorporating into this. But yep, maybe one day PD will listen and actually do something correct with regards to that slip. At the moment, they just seem to be experimenting and not getting it right, in my view. But it is going to make for an entertaining race, because when you got a slipstream as strong as it is for this race, what it does is it bunches people up, because you can be 1 second slower than the car in front and you can stick with them because you've got a massive pull from that slipstream, and it's just going to drag you all the way up behind them, and it's going to create closer racing. But in my view, that doesn't necessarily mean better racing. A bit like DRS in F1. I'm not a massive fan of the DRS. I think, although it is needed technically now in F1, I don't think it makes the racing any better, because it's kind of a fictional way of overtaking. But you see there, Damien goes for a lovely move up the inside of the Subaru, I think that is, or the Lexus maybe that is, I can't really tell from here. And you can see he's put himself ahead and into P7, I'm in P9. Now we're going to get the slipstream from the car in front and see if we can go for a move into the brake. But you can see what happens here is everyone just picks up everyone's slip, and by the time you get to the braking zone here, you just bunch up into a group, and it does end up causing a lot of chaos. Now Hogstone there, I think he went for a bit of a late optimistic move and maybe missed his brakes slightly there also, because he was half a second back in the braking zone, and he actually backed out of that one and let us back through. So fair play for that. I think it was a bit late on the brakes, maybe missed his brakes with the power of the slip as well, because that's happened a lot this week on Daily Race B as well as Daily Race C, with the strength of that straight line speed advantage that you get. So it does catch people out, and a lot of race incidents is because of that. You're going into the braking zones 10 miles an hour faster, and it just catches people out. So back into this race, you can see that it all bunches up in front of us, and we have nowhere to go there. I tried to go to the right, we end up losing a bit of pace, and Hogstone's going to have a little look up the inside here. But the problem with McLaren is acceleration. It's not the greatest. And you can see, even with him being in the slipstream there, we're actually able to get back alongside, and we're in the slipstream to the right hand side now. So we're going to gain on this straight and get ourselves back into an okay position, come back over to the middle of the track, defend that, and then just make sure we don't hit the cars in front in the braking zone. Now we can see we've got max power, goes a little bit deep there, but you can see the advantage of going that deeper line is he gets incredible exit speed, and he manages to hold onto that P7. But we got Damien in the Suzuki managing to get quite a bit ahead here, so we do need to get a move on. So let's go for a move and show you just how strong this slipstream is. And as we come into this braking zone here, you can see we're going so much quicker, and he actually goes for a bump draft on got max power there, and we see the opportunity up the inside down using first gear for a bit of rotation. Some great side-by-side racing here with max power here, and again side-by-side all the way up the hill, and we've just about got enough of an advantage that we can now get ourselves into this corner. We see we go for a very late turn in so we give him space, and I think the car behind actually snatches the rear of max power's car there. I think that slightly lost him a bit of time there. You can see in the mirror a little bit of chaos going on. I think the Lexus just tagged him slightly on the rear as he turned in for the corner, and yeah, we've got away from that battle now, and now we're back up behind Damien. So let's see if we can get back amongst this group and try and get ourselves as far up as possible. We're in P7, not a bad start to this race from P13. We're obviously starting on the hard tyres. Now, strategy-wise for this race, that is going to be the way to do it. Start on hard, end on the medium, because you'll just lose too much starting on the medium, especially with the slipstream strength. You might even find some people on the hard tyres might be able to stay with you when you're on the mediums. It's that crazy how strong the slip is. Now, we're going to go for a bit of an optimistic view, overtake here. We see an opportunity. Now, we're in the slipstream to Rory. Rory goes to the right-hand side. That opens up a gap on the left-hand side, which I see. And I know the track extends to the left of the pit lane exit. And we see that. We go down the left, and we're going to go for 3 overtakes in one corner, and just about managing to rotate it into the corner, get back onto the throttle, and an absolutely lovely overtake there up into P3. And yeah, maybe overtake of the week. I don't know. I really enjoyed that overtake. A lot of people in the chat when we were live streaming said it was a really good overtake. So yeah, we'll take that. 3 cars in one corner pretty much. Probably brought on by that slipstream being about 2000% too strong, but still, we'll take it. It was optimistic. I saw the gap up here. Then we knew about the track going wider on the left-hand side, and then we had to slow it down from that tight line, which we managed to do. So there was a lot of factors involved, but we pulled it off, and we're up into P3 in a podium position in this race. However, we have Damien right behind us. By the time we're coming into the pit stop here, we're going in the pits on lap 6. I think this is the optimal way of running this race in terms of overall pace. Lap 6 off the hard tyre, and then you're going to do 8 laps on the medium tyre. It's a reasonable length race. That seems to be the best way to do strategy-wise. Now, do remember, you can pit earlier and get a bit of an undercut if there's a lot of battling going on. It can definitely work in a race with a lot of chaos. However, you will then have worse tyres towards the end of the race. You have to be very careful with that strategy. Now, as we come to the end of lap 7 here, Damien in the mirror there, you might have spotted it, drives himself into the wall. I'm not sure what he's doing. I think he must have been looking behind to see if the car behind had got a penalty, which it did. So that might be what had happened there. He's probably looking in the mirror and then wasn't looking where he was going, and yeah, clobbered into the wall. But now what we're going to see here is that power of that slipstream again and the acceleration of that Suzuki. So again, look in the mirror and look at the delta, just how quickly he is going to gain. However, as we're coming through here, I think he accidentally bump drafts me instead of actually going for an overtake. And you can see there, once that stopped it, you can see that at this point now he's out the slipstream. This is the true speed of the cars. And you can see that it isn't that much of an overspeed, and we're actually able to hold on to that position. So this is what makes me think, if it would have been using real slipstream, I think this might have been a better race in terms of being able to battle a little bit more realistically. At the moment, it just seems a bit fictional how much you're gaining, but like we've said before, it does make probably for quite entertaining viewing, and it does create some quite entertaining battles. So maybe that's what PD are trying to do, but I prefer the real authentic battles when your pace is actually similar, because you actually have similar pace, not just because you're getting dragged along by a slipstream pulling you an extra second every lap. But you can see now we're starting to catch up to the next 2 cars in front of us. Now, I think them 2 may have been on a slightly different strategy, and you can see here on the next lap, on lap 8, Damien is not going to make the same mistake again now with that slipstream. Even though we got a bit of slip from the other car, that excess speed from being so close has got himself up into P4, and we're going to top it into P5 and see if we can still work with Damien to try and catch these next 2 cars up, because they're, I think, maybe on slightly different tyres. They might have started on a different strategy, gone medium to hard tyre, and you can see by the time we get to the end of the lap here, you can see that Damien is motoring along there. We're in the slip also, but we're not going to be able to go for an overtake by the time we get to the end of the straight. You see we're a bit too far back there, so it's just a case of can we find an opportunity. Now, good thing for us is that Damien didn't get past there. He's got a little bit held up, and there is nowhere to really overtake on this middle sector unless someone makes a mistake, goes a little wide, and then you go for a cheeky little move up the inside. But if you drive it smart, it's pretty much impossible to get an overtake through this whole middle part of the lap. So you can hold people up quite a lot if you're on a slower tyre. There's nowhere to really brake. It's just a case of just sitting behind them and waiting for that long straight where you can then just try and get past. However, as we come through here, we see that the car in P3 picks up half a second penalty, and that's going to make our life a little bit easier when we get to the penalty zone, because we're going to get promoted up into P4. See, Damien's going to go for the move now. We're going to tuck into the slip and try and get past him before the braking zone for the hairpin, which we should be able to do. You can see he's going to take that there. We're going to go over to the left-hand side just in case the car on-ghosts in front of us, and we have been promoted up one position. Now we've got another car just ahead of Damien, and that's what we're going to be aiming for. This is the battle for P2 pretty much. P1 is out of reach. Wind started from the front of the grid. You're not going to catch Wind up if he started from the front. The only way we're going to be able to battle with Wind in this type of race is if we start with him, and that'll purely be because of the slipstream being so strong. But obviously, with the situation we're in now, we started P13, and P2 would be a very good result. And you can see there, Damien is putting a lot of pressure on P2, but again, he's going to get a little bit held up through this middle sector, so we're just going to take it nice and easy, not overdrive it. And luckily for us there, Damien goes a little bit too much over the curb, and that is going to be a quite aggressive 1 second penalty. I'm not sure I agree with that. I think half a second at most, but in my view, I still think we should be running the Assetto Corsa system where it just gives you warnings until you do too many, and then it makes a decision on whether you get a more severe penalty. I think 1 second for that kind of mistake just seems way too aggressive, as Damien keeps it nice and clean, goes for a move up the inside, nearly loses the rear. We're going to bump Damien now that he's obviously got a 1 second penalty. It works better for me to bump draft him, get myself past the other car, and then let Damien take that penalty, and hopefully he won't be too close to us. Now, as we come into the braking zone, luckily for us, the Peugeot that's behind us goes for a bit of an optimistic move there. You can see Wet Makes goes for a dive. That loses both of them time, and then that just basically frees me up to have some clean air for a few laps. And we're going to take advantage of that and run some smooth laps and just try and stay out in the lead. However, by the time we get to the final lap here, you can see I make a little bit of a mistake going up this hill, and Damien is getting quite close here. And he's actually managed to get himself in the slipstream, so he is going to gain all the way up this straight. And we've already seen just how quick that Suzuki is on acceleration in the slipstream. It's pretty crazy. Now you can see we're going to try and break that slipstream as we go up this straight and into the braking zone. And then again, as we go into the braking zone, you can see it looks like we've got enough of a gap. However, as we brake in here, we get a little bit too tight on the throttle there, a little bit too aggressive, lose the rear slightly, and that's going to compromise us slightly. So Damien is actually going to get quite close here. But luckily for us, it looks like we're going to be able to hold on for a very well-earned P2 from the back of the grid. And yet, you can see there, Damien's coming up behind. But one more lap, and he would have got back ahead. But unfortunately, we only have 14 laps, and we're going to take that P2. So a fun race, but is the slipstream too strong? I'm interested in knowing what you lot think about this, because I currently think it is a bit too strong, and I'd like to hear what you lot think with regards to that. But anyway, we'll be back with more videos, more live streams. Have a great day, everyone, and take care. Bye.